we are going to make our transversal is here, okay? So the first thing I want to look at is what kind of angles do I have with parallel lines. So we said we think it's similar, and we know this is 70. So what angle do I also know is 70 because of these two purple parallel lines, Julia? Well, angle B is up here is 70, but that has nothing to do with my parallel lines. What do I know, Grace? This angle down here at C. So I'm going to move this so we can see the letters a little better. So we want to say angle DAC, that's this angle right up here that we marked, is congruent to angle, we want to say maybe ACB. The reason I want to put 3 letters is because there is more than one angle at C, and I need to know which one we're talking about. Okay? Whereas up at B, that's just one inside the triangle. So we now know that this, and they are both going to equal 70 degrees. So I might even write it on this picture that some of you did on your project. So I now know in that top triangle, I have 2 angles with 70 degrees. Okay? Because I have 2 angles with 70, what do I know the last one has to be in that triangle? The last one has to be how many degrees if I am looking at that one, Nick? 70, 70, and 70 plus 70 is 140, right? So this is going to have to be 40 up here, okay? And then you have 65 in this one, so 65, 70. What does this one have to be? Take your calculator, let's do some subtraction. This one has to be 45. Fisher, do we have similar triangles? No. So we're going to go back and change this to not similar. Okay? On the quiz, do the same thing. You think they're similar at first? You look at the picture on the test on Monday. You think they're similar? Go back. So everyone on question 17 should have this written down. Even if you didn't before, because I want to make sure when you study or go back and review for your test that you have these steps. So this was our first fact. Our first fact, we said these were equal to 70 degrees. But we also said we have this angle, we had a 40-degree angle, a 70-degree, and a 70-degree triangle, right? And we also had a 45, 65, 70-degree triangle. So in this case, this would have been on your project, not similar, and our reason is only one pair of congruent, if you like to write the symbol instead, angles. So if you didn't write this down, please make sure you go back and write this right now on 17. Kind of trying to give you a hint to help you. There's pencils in the back if you don't have one, okay? This would be a 7 points right here, okay? So the first one is 1 point, this part is 7 points, okay? If there is an angle that's congruent, you want to tell me because in this case they're both 70 because they were what kind of angles? Alternate interior. So when I'm trying to get all the points for this, for the 7 points, I want to see these two. I want to see your reason. I want to see that the triangles didn't have 2 angles that were congruent, right? As I look at question 2, we're going to start with question 2 this time. Amy, what do you think? Do you think they are similar when we look at it? Because that's the first question on the test when I ask you about the triangles. Do you think similar? Yeah, similar. So the first thing, we said we think they're similar. Now we have to give our reasons. So Asa, when you look at that picture, are there any angles that you know are exactly congruent or the same?
No.
Olivia, you see something? Angle E, is that what you said? Congruent to angle B. Do you agree, Asa? They're both marked how?
Sure.
What are they both marked with? How many degrees in both of them?
65.
65. So those are the same, right? That's the same congruent angles as we are looking at it. So we have one pair. So now we're looking at it, And I need to see if I have another pair. Jennifer, do you have anything else that we know? Anything else that we recognize that might be the same in both triangles? Because we said it was similar. It's going to be similar. I need to get two congruent angles. Evan, you see something? Angle C. Angle C. Okay. What am I going to say about angle C?
Angle C is congruent to angle C.
Angle C is congruent. It's the same angle, right? So this one, why? Because it's the same angle. Here, if we were looking at, why is this one? Because of the marks, right? This was, the reason was, this was like our given information. It's because of these were marked at 65. So we now have two congruent angles. So now I need to say that my triangles are similar. So my last step on the test, so this part is for that 7 points. Make sure you're writing it down. You have something to write with? My pencil's back there if you need one, okay? So now we are going to say the triangle. What triangle am I looking at as I do this one? Lisa, start me off with triangle what?
Triangle A,
A what?
E.
To E. Okay. A, B, C. Similar. So she started with a no marking to the 65 to the C that they both had in common. To the other triangle, when I look at it, Gavin Murray, is going to have to be what? Okay, so A had no mark. Then we went to E with the 65 to C. So now we're looking at this smaller triangle. Where do we start with the angle that has no marking on it? D. So we're going to say angle D. And then we went to E, which had the mark of 65. So instead, where do I want to go next in this picture?
B.
I want to go to B, and then I want to go to C. And then our reason is going to be because we have two pairs of congruent angles. We know they are similar. Question. In this little triangle, if I pull them apart, this is the same angle C, however many degrees, I don't know. But it's the same one in the big triangle and the little one. It's exactly the same spot. It's exactly the same degrees, right? So C is congruent to C when I look at that, okay? So you're going to finish this other page of H18. And what I would like you to do right now is to turn in your notes. And in your notes, we are going to look at exactly what's on the notes. You see, these are our standards. And which ones are we looking at? We are just doing that bottom standard 5 on this test. So if we look at that, so we're looking at the bottom standard 5. We are looking at identifying the relationships of angles. So that second standard, and then that top one where we're writing the sequence to prove. Now you don't have to write the sequence to prove in this one, but you have to give me the two angle pairs. So when we take a look at this, back on page 47, on page 47, our test is going to be Monday. Okay, so when you walk in here Monday, we're taking our test. What do you have to have done? You should have 18 and 17. I'm going to finish checking your homework today. 12 points, or 12 questions, 50 points. Okay. The first standard that you want to write down is that I can identify and use angle relationships. I would take a look at the Quizlet that I have on Daily Planner. I would look at page 34 and 37 in your notes. Those are ones that deal with all of these supplementary, complementary, vertical, alternate interior, alternate exterior. They deal with 3 angles in a triangle totaling to 180. That the exterior angle of a triangle is equal to the opposite interior. So all of these different names are going to be on page 34 and 37. So the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do, some of the questions I'm going to ask you to find the measure. So one of the things you have to actually tell me the angle measure. And it probably isn't going to be just a straightforward in a triangle where I give you 2 angles and you just find the third one. It's going to be like a multi-step question, right? Like you might have triangles within triangles, and I'll show you one on your homework. So you got to find angle measures. That's going to be part of it. And then you need to know the names, right? I'm going to ask you why are these 2 congruent? You're going to say, oh, they're corresponding angles. Oh, therefore they are vertical angles. So you need to know all the names of all those different angles, okay? So I have them listed up on the board up here. They will not be up there on Monday with all that list of names. So today when you're doing your homework, if you need to look at angle names, turn back to page 34 and 37. Like fold those pages over and you'll see those, okay? The second standard that we are really going to be focusing on today, or on your test, that we're going to look at is what we just did on H18. You have to prove that the two triangles are going to be similar. So this was your H17, this was H16, this was the project that we just did. All of those are leading you into how do you show that two triangles are similar. This first standard up here, 34 points, 10 questions were 34 points. The second one is 16 points. That's where I was talking. Each one is worth 8 points. Okay? So when you're looking at this, this is where you're going to say step A, they are similar or not. That's going to be 1 point, right? Then part B of that question is going to say explain or prove it. This is where you give fact 1, this angle is congruent to this angle. And maybe at that point you stop because you can only give one fact and then you tell me something else about the triangle. But it's usually going to be that you tell me fact 1, fact 2, another angle congruent, and then you say triangle, and the order is super important, is similar to another triangle with the 3 letters, and you're going to give me the because, if they are similar, 2 pair of congruent angles. Okay? So that's what I'm going to be looking at. Did you want to write any of this down so you know what to study for your test? That's why I'm going over this as you're looking at this. If not today, say, oh, I know angle 6 because it relates to this angle. How? So you're always going to tell me how it relates to that angle. If you would please right now look at question number 6. So in question number 6, do you see that triangle? So when I talked about question 5 and 6 and just finding a missing angle, when you look at question 6, you want to look at this big triangle first. And in that big triangle, what do you know about 2 of the angles as you look at it, Julia? The big triangle going from A to B to C. What do you know? B is 90. So this has to be, please write in your homework, this has to be the first angle that you find. You guys got to find angle C first. Why do I have to find angle C first? Because there's not enough information to find the one that they want me to, which is right here. This is the one that they ask us to find. And you can't find this angle until you know this angle. And then what do we know about along this straight line? Can we find this angle inside here? We know that that angle has to be equal to, if we look at angles CDE, we might need to find that angle. And you can just write it in the picture. You don't have to tell me the angle. But you need to find first the one on the top, C, and then you can find D. And now you have 2 angles inside this little weird triangle. So people are sometimes trying to go, oh, does this have to be 46 or this 62 parallel? There's no parallel lines in this picture, right? So you got to use the information that you know about all your triangles and as you're doing those. And then the last page is where you're doing the similar. So this is where I'm asking you, are they similar or not? Give me the 2 facts, tell me the triangles, similar as we were just talking about on the review, okay? So these look a lot like H17 that we just went through in your project.